Hello, everyone. This is for no particular reason, and we're at episode 34. I am your host, Yanko Yankov. That's right, episode 34. And uh, next to me, it's Kerri Lewis, my co-host, which it's a wonderful friend and addiction and mental health coach, speaker, and all-around good person. And today, we're at Crystal Den. We have our other guest, uh, Elana Richter, and she is. We met with her in one of the holistic healing events that I was going, and we just kind of vibed right away, and we had to bring her to the show. She's a Reiki Master. She has a store. We're currently at the store, the Crystal Den. She organizes and teaches people on how to do Reiki and become Reiki certified. And there's also she hosts metaphysical groups and people coming and doing astrology cards and other things. So, welcome, Elena. You wanna? Did I miss something in the intro? Do you want to add something to it?
I've been doing Reiki for 20 years. I am a master teacher. I've done probably over 2,000 Reiki sessions in the 20 years. We teach here. We also do trans-meditational shifting. I do astral travel. We create a lot, as you can see, many things in the store. I like to hand create a lot of the jewelry and smudgers and different things that we have here. So that's always fun. And we teach and we do drum classes and create animal hide drums. That's another thing I really love to do. And I also work with the psilocybin studies. So one of the major loves is mushrooms.
which I love. So first off, I'm so excited that you're here because as soon as Yanko told me about you, I'm like, stay last. That's my kind of people. Um, for the listening audience, this is my first time meeting this beautiful soul. So I'm super excited to go into all the things. Talk to me about how it is you kind of stepped into this path, or have you always been guided with your spirit rather than your head? Because the work you're doing is not uh head led. Head led.
Yeah, I think I've pretty much always been heart led my most of
Yeah.
my life. So
Yeah.
as younger child, unfortunately, I got toward the wrong direction, but then sort of got transformed into a new person somewhere in my about 30s, I think. And I started out at religious science, and while I was studying to become a pastor, I sort of stumbled on the missing parts of the crystals in the Bible, and so I was sort of like the cat with the light. I get drawn toward whichever direction it goes. And so then I started to try and find out more about crystals, and that led me to the love of what they were able to change in the frequencies, and then I would cut them, and then it would teach me. From there, I went into, oh gosh, it's a very wild design because it's like anytime the light flashes, the cat goes that way. That's sort of me. I can't play with one of those red lights because I'll chase it. So I change directions very quickly. I have taken quantum physics for fun.
Me too. I love it. Thank you. I love you
Yeah.
even more. Yes.
Yeah, so that was, and I've worked with food health over the last 5 years. I've been studying psychotropics, mental health, plant medicines. I spent many years um, volunteering on the suicide hotline and working with that, and a lot with the mental health as well. So I was very excited to meet you because it's that passion of heart.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, just the psilocybin study that John Hopkins did on the heroin addiction just shifted everything. It is amazing. Mushrooms are going to save the world. We just got to get the government out of the way and let it happen.
Well,
So,
so it's so funny. So I'm not one to mince words, and I'll tell you right now, I use myself psilocybins probably once every 3 years, guys. I take full, like I have no issue saying that I use psilocybins purposefully, for spiritual blocks or whatever. However, I'm not going to lie, particularly because of my business. I have an issue when we introduce anything externally, uh, needed, like being needed all the time for people to tap into their internal selves. Because if you're
Uh,
seeking externals, whether it's psilocybins, cannabis, um, Reiki, like, then you're a slave to externals. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because on the one hand, I love what you do, but I also see the narrative not being focused on the fact that while you utilize these beautiful gifts of nature, it should be in part like incorporated with other practices, meditation, grounding,
absolutely.
you know what I mean? So what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
No, absolutely. I think that plant medicine has to be honored for what it is.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't, it's not a party drug. Things are not meant to, I mean, although there are people with high anxiety who a microdose is going to help them out, and if that's how they survive, I don't say they shouldn't do that. But I think that plant medicine in its whole can heal many very deep things and allow us to open up and be more able to meditate, more able to be within self. And I
Yeah.
think it's when we come to love self, and it's the love of self that really changes everything. And I have seen that with the mushrooms and some guided, where people, until you can truly love you, you can't be you can't be happy. You can't be fully in self, and you can't truly be loved by anybody else
Yeah.
if you don't love yourself first.
I
And
love,
this whole generation was taught, we were taught, you're not all it. It's
right?
not about you, kids. Sit down,
Yep.
shut up. So we were taught not to love ourselves in a very deep way. But our parents were taught that too, and their parents were taught that. Same as we were taught to drink a glass of milk with every meal, which is, and we were taught to brush our teeth with
Nothing
fluoride.
against those kidney stones, but hey,
Right.
no. So I want to circle back because I agree with you, and I want the community to hear this. I have no issue with you taking mental health drugs. I have no issue with you microdosing if you're utilizing it as a tool and a strategy to, one, get out of that deep anxiety. I totally get it. I spent months and months in deep depression, years in severe addiction, and anxiety, and depression. Um, but again, I just want to emphasize it's a tool that really should help you get to love yourself,
Right.
to get curious to,
Right.
and most importantly, what I believe is give yourself permission to examine your beliefs and release any ones that do not feel yummy to you, that do not serve you. You need permission. And two, to utilize those strategies to help you open up to new possibilities so then you can incorporate different perspectives, which then allow you to expand into self-love. And
Yeah.
so it's a wonderful tool. I think everything, it's in moderation, and when anybody leans into anything too excessively, then you're a slave to that, and that then
Right.
you lose self.
Right. I agree. I did experienced ayahuasca this last year, and it was really amazing, very different. But I don't recommend it to somebody who's not drawn to it, because it's a serious commitment to sit and facilitate everything that you go through, because
Yeah.
it's not like smoking a joint is a totally different thing. This is monumentous. Mushrooms, I think, are like that step up, and ayahuasca's like there. So,
Yeah.
but after doing it a few times, I basically was told by the medicine, "You're done with me. We're good. We got everything cleared that we can get cleared. You go on and do what you need to do."
Yeah.
And it was really surprising, because I thought I'd be working with people for a while, and it was like, no, you're good, you can go. So
Well, it's interesting you say that, because a woman who I'm dear friends with, Gail Kraft, who actually joins our show quite frequently, she and I had this conversation because we see people become a slave to ayahuasca too, because you're so tapped in and tuned in to God, like you are one, right? And And again, I think you're right. You respect like your knowing. And I think until people like I do believe that my job is to be that person to help you tap into your knowing. It's not to tell you how to live your life. It's not to judge you. I don't judge anybody. If you want to microdose the rest of your life, have at it. I just know personally that when you need something externally for love, you're a slave to externals and not I can tap into me anytime, right? But um it's creating that, mid cingulate cortex, a part of your brain that understands, okay, I honor what I went through and now I can just move forward. And I think that alone is building a muscle and a practice, which is super important when you're looking to experiment with certain medicines, because it is a medicine and it can absolutely support you, but it's just having the right guide and facilitator
Yeah,
to help you get to the place that you're seeking to get to, and understand when it's okay to pull back, like
right.
you
Yeah,
recognize.
you don't want to, I mean, you do want to live within that dimensional energy,
Yeah, of course.
where somebody's at in ayahuasca is like this freedom and this peace. And so with any kind of addiction, that's what you're searching for. You're
Yeah,
searching for that. But you can get there without the medication, without the plant medicine itself. But I think the plant medicine brought me to be able to get to that space without it. Like, it's like, okay, and now I know how to get there myself. It was
yeah,
sort of I had shown. But psilocybin for me, I have seen such major things with microdosing and seeing people get off SRIs,
yeah,
which are
which is
like, you
terrible for
know,
you.
they're the
Yeah.
most dangerous thing on the planet. They should be outlawed, and anybody who, it's
Well,
just
not only
terrible.
that, they don't even work after 2 years. And again, like I said, Elena, I'm never here to judge. I think Yanko and I do a really good job at just being curious. But I will say that, I mean, there's just way too much evidence to suggest that, well, one, our mental health system is obviously not working. Neither is the addiction recovery system, because if it was, there wouldn't be an 80% relapse. There wouldn't be an increase of suicide. So I totally get it. Um, and you're spot on in that, psilocybin can absolutely be a catalyst for people to move away from these really toxic drugs on your brain to then step into their true purpose and power, which, for anybody who doesn't know what I stand for, it's love. We are all love. We are connected. We are love. At the end of the day, when you can break down the barriers of, um, oh, your skin color is olive and mine is white, or I grew up in a Christian belief and you grew up Jewish. We can't be friends. When you can let that go, oh my God, the power of connection. And then you do step into different dimensions, because you're in the fourth dimension, separated from time and space. And then it's all love, it's all joy, it's all
Right.
peace.
And that's it. It is love. That's the only thing we need, you know.
Yes. Yep.
And people really are starting to wake up, and I'm really excited about what I'm seeing,
Me too.
because here I was led to open my place, and this was a dream for a long time. And 5 years ago, I was like, I'm going to do it. And then a year ago now, we opened, and the people who are coming through the door are family.
Yeah.
And I literally think I'm going to paint on the wall, everybody here is your family, just some you haven't met yet, because it's a community of just pure love. There's no
Yeah.
judgment, there's no criticism, it's just love. And we have a group that we sit and we do a mind metaphysical discussion, and everybody comes in and you can talk about anything.
Yeah.
And everybody has different opinions, even in that aspect, even in the metaphysical. Some people are podcast and channelers. Some people work with skulls. Some people, yeah, some people work with the plant medicines to get to where they want to be. Some
Yeah.
people are working with other medicines.
Yeah, I mean,
And
look at Osho. Me and Yanko talk about it. Osho uses, intimate experiences as a part of achieving that like oneness. So it is all individualized. And when you can stop judging how somebody gets to that understanding and experience, then there's no separation. And that's a beauty. And that's what I one of the reasons I love everything you stand for, truly. Yeah.
Crap. Did I kick you off?
Yeah, both of us.
No, you're on, Elena.
No, she can still see you.
I can't see her, but I can. I think I
That's
can
okay. I
hear
can
her.
see you. Can you hear me, Elena?
Sorry.
That's okay.
I love
There
technical.
you go. Now I can hear you.
Okay, see. So, so you've been open a year. You talked about all of these things that you love to do. What was the thing that got you started? So I know you said you've always been spiritual, and I know you started to study, in the spiritual sector before you realized about crystals.
Yeah, I
Uh,
was very much. I grew up Greek Orthodox, and so I went to church with my parents in a place that was. I don't know. I didn't feel very connected as a child to my church. I felt connected to God, but I
yes.
didn't feel connected to the church itself. And we lived, a distance away from where most of the Greek Orthodox people in the community lived, sort of in one area. Kids went to school together, and we were sort of out of that. So I think that's part of it, as I really didn't know any of them. So I only saw them on Sundays, and there wasn't really a whole lot of connection. And I also didn't speak Greek, so that didn't help either. So I always was sort of searching, and as I got older, I'd experienced Catholic Church and Lutheran. And so then I started to really study and wanted to know where I belonged, basically. And by the time I was done with the years of, you know, different types of religions, I realized that it's really just being connected, and that we are all one. We're all connected to everything, and the plants, the dogs, the trees. I said, as I've grown, my belief and my strength is really, um, I feel very close to the creation itself and who I am within it, and that love, and what happens when we all connect, and when we can see that we don't need anything but that. I was very political for a lot of years, so
Mm.
that was like to transition from that reality into this reality over the last 5 years, 6 years. It is truly, it's been something, because I was like the youngest election judge in our area, and I did it
Oh
for
my God.
like, I know, 20 some odd years of my life. I worked in politics, and it's like, and you have a belief. You have a
Of
belief,
course.
and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you think that this is the way it's going to be, and yeah, it's like once you realize that absolutely everything is a lie.
Everything.
Everything we were taught, everything. And when I say everything, people are like, ah. No, I'm like, no, absolutely everything.
Everything.
And then you have to retrain yourself. And I've been reprogramming myself, and my kids are like, especially the one, I have one daughter who lives with me with four grandchildren, and then we have another grandson who has come to live with us recently. And with them, I'm trying to teach them the right ways. No fluoride in your toothpaste. So, And she's like, "Well, you made us drink a glass of milk," and I'm like, "Yes, and I'm sorry. I didn't know any better. Like,
Exactly. I did.
if I knew then what I know now, you'd be different people."
But
But
here's the thing. You know what's so funny? Because I understand neurolinguistic programming. I pick up on language. Who you are today is the perfect perfection of the culmination of all of your experience. And so my kids say
absolutely,
stuff and I never apologize. I'm like, who I show up today as is a result of all of the experience, including the time I picked you up and threw you on your bed and smashed all stuff off your. Now, would I do that in this moment? No. But do I judge myself in that? No, because that was one of the catalysts for me stepping in and saying, okay, this doesn't feel good for me, and I need to look at and do things
yeah, it's
differently. And
changed.
that's a gift I think you give and I give and everybody gives, is understanding that our past is perfection. even in its messy middle, icky, sticky,
Absolutely.
right? And when
Yeah,
you
doing shadow work is people throw that term around so much, and it's like, oh yeah, and I have to, but it's like you seriously get into shadow work and you go in depth,
yeah,
and you go very deep into what your uglies are, and you accept them.
and you love
You
them.
go through them, and you just, and it's okay. I mean, I consider myself a very extremely patient person. I have a limousine company as well. So I'm driving 3, 6 hours a day sometimes. I'm on the highway all the time and I deal with people at O'Hare. You have to have patience. Um, and when I feel like I don't, the challenges come in to make sure that I'm where I should be. Like, okay, that guy's going to cut you off. You're going to have 13 people cut you off for the next 10 minutes until you get your shit back in line. And so,
See, that is, I love, oh my God. So, everybody, if you're in the Chicago area, you're going to go see her. And I'm going to be flying out to see you at some point because I need to give you a hug. But you're right, and everything is a lie, and everything's an opportunity to decide whether you're going to lean into love or fear. Now, let me just tell you, my daughter's going through a situation in school. And we have to accept that we're a contradiction. I can be loving as hell, and the ghetto Kerri can once in a while come out, particularly when it comes to my daughters. Now,
yeah,
it's more
Mama
about,
Bear.
I don't judge myself when I pop off and show somebody, as my favorite singer ever would say, but I can hold myself accountable and say, okay, but because I did that, now I'm experiencing this energy. Not that I'm good or bad, but the energy I send out is going to come back. So I have to own the fact that, yes, I'm loving. Yes, I can be a little spicy, but when I'm a little spicy, I'm getting that spice right back.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and what we kick out, the energy is what we get back every single day. And it's using the right words. Most people don't realize the English language is spells. It was created to create spells, and as we speak, we have to be extremely careful. The Four Agreements, I'm sure you've read it,
Of
but
course.
if somebody out there that's listening to this hasn't, please do. And also listen to the book that's called so it doesn't start with you. It didn't start with you. That's also slightly life changing for people because it really goes into um, forgiving, forgiving our parents for, and knowing that, yeah, it didn't start with us. There are things that started way before we came along. There's things that we have learned from our parents and they've learned from their parents and it keeps going. And, but we're responsible for today. And each day when you wake up, using the right words, not it's gonna be, but it is a great day, because nothing's gonna be. It already is. It
It
is right
is.
now.
Yes.
So it's an amazing day. And you know it and you feel it. And I use the three affirmation when I do, it's I feel blessed and I know I'm blessed, you know, and I am blessed. So you go from your root chakra to your crown chakra to your heart chakra, and you can integrate all of those things that are what they are, and they will be. So you choose how you want to live your life. This is heaven and this is hell.
Yes.
So
Ooh, preach.
so you
Preach.
choose where you want to live. If you want to live in heaven, then you have to be in that loving, connecting, blessing to others and to self. And if you want to live in hell, there's many people doing that.
Many. Well, it's
And it,
so funny. My friend Gail Pratt. There we go. So
Sorry, people.
don't
Camera
be
problems.
sorry. My friend Gail Pratt, I called her up a few months ago because I was totally an ego, feeling sorry about my family's plight. And she's like, Kerri, you're trying to take their candy. And what she meant by that, and I love that she said it, she's like, they get to stay in hell. Why are you trying to tell them not to be in hell? Are you in hell? No. When do you go to hell? When you're worried about them being in hell. So why worry about them being in hell? And I'm like,
well,
yes. For the
one of the
reminder.
things with Reiki clients that I get a lot
Yeah.
is that I'll get somebody on the table and they'll have all kinds of energy, just like the back of the shoulders, it's all in pain. And they're taught empathy. Empathy is to pull. I want to take away from you your hurt. I want to take away from you, you know. And it's like, one, you don't have the right to do that. That's their path. They need to do it.
Yep.
And you're stealing from them their experience so they can't finish it out. So you need to just send your love and your light at them and just let it be. And then you just take on what's yours. And your body will work fine because you won't put the energetic heaviness to it.
Yeah. It's interesting. You're so spot on. And I'll never forget one of my biggest celebrations as a coach was when one of my clients fired me, and she fired me because I refused to take a position about the Israeli Pakistani war because I don't know. I'm too small. I don't know. And understandable because of how she was raised, that wasn't something that she could understand. And so she fired me. And then I was like, holy crap, I'm sitting in a really powerful love, because as I can bear witness to and watch, but not attach judgment or a label, then I'm sending very powerful energy to all people encompassed, which is why I don't vote, guys. My daughters are so mad at me because I don't vote. They're young women. They want me to take a stance. I don't know what's in the best interest, because I know that being raped twice, going through domestic violence, guess what? Some of the best things that ever happened to me, because it's made me who I am today. And so I can't say why things work out the way they do. But when we just allow things to unfold naturally without trying to control it,
Yes.
it is always in the highest good for all.
Right. Yeah, and each thing that happens to us happens for us. And a lot of people go, oh, why me? How come? And it's like, no, it happens for you. Even those horrible acts happen for you so that
Yep.
you could learn and see and shift and change the energy and maybe be able to help the next person through their energy field, because we're a little stronger because we've been there, done that, changed us, but now we can help the younger ones. So,
Which is why when you mentioned shadow work, because I do shadow work with my clients, but I don't call it shadow work. I just don't. I basically tell people I got them like a fish, because I do. Because I force them to examine all of their beliefs, behaviors, and conditioning. And then they get to keep whatever they want. I don't care. It's just you got to look at it. You got to
that's
strip
not
it
how
down.
you're getting clients, right? You're not
What's
you're not advertising that.
Oh, I do. I do get. Look at.
Yeah,
I'm
she
not
wasn't
for the faint of heart,
responsible.
Elena. I am
I love
somebody
that.
that I
Come
don't.
work with me. I'll gut you like a fish.
I do. I got you like a fish. I definitely advertise it. Anyway,
Oh, that's funny.
I'm like 100%. What you see is what you get in all areas of my life. But what I was gonna say is, I don't remember now. It escapes me. So
It'll come to you.
it will, or it won't, and that's okay too. Yeah.
It's an amazing life. There's so many things. And the other thing that really has come to me over the last couple of years is that as we rise, as an individual, as my soul goes up and I improve me, not him and not her, and just me, and I raise my vibration, all those connections that I have that are heart connections, like my husband and my kids and my grandkids, they change too because my vibration changes. So if you want to your head is to save your family, save yourself. And your
Yeah.
strings are attached. You'll pull them out of the water as well because you'll go up and then, you're like the helicopter and they're attached by the strings. You can bring them all out of the muck,
Yep.
you know.
Well, two things I want to add. One, I remember my thought about shadow work. I truly believe our story is our superpower. And what I mean by that is when you transmute the pain and the suffering to your point, right? And it just becomes an experience that you had at some point. There is no emotional attachment.
Yeah.
Then, to your point, you now get to be that lifeline just through your story. You don't even, just by me saying what I've been through, I may never work with somebody, but they might say, holy crap, Kerri went through that, and now she has this, and this. If she can do it, I can do it. So that is super true. And the thing about, as we rise, we help others rise. I want to add a caveat to that. And this is super important because I, at times, work with very low level energy people. You will absolutely pull some people up with you as you rise, right? The people who are willing to do their own work, right? I rise, my children had to do their own work. They had to face their own
Yeah.
anxiety. They had to face their own struggles. They had to heal from their stories, what they went through, experience a mom who struggled with alcoholism. But you will shed people too, and that's okay. And I say that
Absolutely.
because what happens is I see a lot of people that their vibration starts to rise, they start to heal, but their mom, their boyfriend, their child, right? It's scary for them because you flip the rules of the game. Now you're doing, and so they start to push back and they start to say, "Oh, you're bad. You're wrong. What are you doing? How dare you set a boundary? How dare you have tough conversation? How dare you go study crystals?" Right? And this person is like, "Oh, you're right." Instead of
Oh,
saying,
yeah.
"I'm going to keep doing this, and you can either start to come up with me or you're going to fade away." And it's not because
Yeah.
I don't love you. In fact, it's because I love me enough to let you go to love you. And that's what I had to do with my ex-husband. I love him immensely. I love him more now than I did when we were together. But if I had stayed, I would have drowned.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a daughter who I love because she's my daughter, but she's very hard to be around as a human being because she doesn't want to come up at all. She
Yes.
and I had a struggle with it in the first, and now I'm like, you know what? That's her walk. It's who she is. She's not going to do it in this lifetime, but maybe in the next one.
Yeah.
So, and I just send her light and love. And it's like you can only give what you can give. So it's not like you can save everybody who's attached to you, but as you rise up, I think our love and that light that we can give from our heart center
Yeah.
to them gives them some vibrational strength to do the work that they need to do.
Yeah.
I've seen huge changes, like in my husband and my son, and it's nice to see the things happening around me with people that I love,
Yeah.
but it's their walk too, so you
Yeah.
can't really.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so beautiful because you're right. And here's the other thing that I love is if I hadn't raised my energy frequency to where it is now, I would never know Yanko. I would not be having this beautiful, gifted conversation with Elena, who's now fast friends. I'm like a leech. Once you know me, you don't get rid of me. That's real talk. But it's true because you shed what no longer serves you, but you attract what you are
Yeah,
becoming. And as you grow
absolutely.
up the ladder, you keep shedding, or people are coming up with you, and you keep going, going, going. And
Yeah.
it's just, I think the important thing is giving yourself permission, which I'm going to circle back to you with psilocybins because I want to honor that that is something that is meaningful to you. You gave yourself permission to buck cultural norms. Oh my God, you're so bad. You're taking psilocybins. That's a drug, right? To get curious and give yourself permission to tap into a tool that could really, and in your
Well, and
experience,
that's only 5 years ago.
yeah,
I mean, I never touched anything. I got married at 15, and I had my kids really young,
yeah,
and so I never did anything. I was the dare mom. I believed the government when they said that marijuana and psilocybin were a Scheduled One drug. I didn't. And 5 years ago, when I started taking these uh, mental health classes and started in psychotropics and all of that, I was just blown away. And I
yeah,
was angry at my government for what they had done by taking these tools away from people and saying, oh no, this is bad. And they don't even meet the criteria. And it
yeah.
was just all about money. It was all about, making something evil. So I hadn't gone near any of it. And so the first time I tried something, it was like, You just
For,
change.
for our listening audience, will you give them a baseline understanding of what psychotropics are?
So something that can allow, for me, my understanding is it can open your pathways to your higher being.
Hmm.
So it can give you the opportunity to experience fourth dimensional or even fifth dimensional experiences.
Yeah.
Fourth dimensional, most of us can get to fourth dimensional by meditation, using herbal teas, and putting, intentional things with our crystals in the water. And so you can usually hit fourth dimension once you can learn how to really bring yourself in. But you can't get there until you love yourself. You can struggle. You can try. I know people who meditate all the time and they still don't like themselves. And they're like, oh, but I meditate 3 times a day. And I'm like, okay. I'm
You know,
like, I don't know what you're meditating on,
But
but
but but that but that but that be, that could be a thing because a lot of people don't even know what meditation is. A lot of people think it's visualization or like active imagination or like different things. Even guided meditations, people just put the sound on and they follow what happens. So yeah.
well, so Yanko one day, I think he was talking with Nandar Matari, who is a global meditation teacher, and I love her to death. But Yanko goes, and it was like a light bulb moment for me. I'm like, oh yeah, duh. He's like, what most people do is they meditate when they're in negative energy. They're like in stinking thinking. So, oh, I'm anxious as hell. So let me go meditate. And I used to do that. And I'm like, oh my God, that makes sense because all you're doing is ruminating on the freaking shitty thoughts instead of finding peace.
stop the rotation. And that's a lot of it with psychotropics. People can learn how to disconnect those,
Yes.
um, that wheel that you get on.
Yeah.
Um, and you can do it without taking away both. So, like an SRI stops you from having negative repetitive thoughts, but it also stops you from having happy repetitive thoughts so that you become a numb person
Numb.
and you don't really have any feeling. And it makes you sort of not there anymore. You're not really living, you're just existing. And that's the part about it that's so bad,
Well,
where you may have what they call a bad trip, but I don't think there's any bad trips. I think you are where you're at, and there's something you need to see and you need to learn.
yep.
And so if you experience something that's not all happy and bubbles, you know, that's what you're supposed to experience. And you're
Yeah.
supposed to take that and figure out why you're going through it or you went through it. And once you get to the other side, you know, then you're there. And like you said, it's not shadow work. But it's as much as learning what what are our triggers, what are the things that make us upset, what are the things that make us react. So I don't react to pretty much anything anymore, unless it's rudeness. If I'm in the grocery store and somebody's yelling at the clerk and she's, 17-year-old kid, that's when that, like you said, when your mother bear comes out, you just sort of, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Oh,
you know
I
what?
can.
Even then,
But I don't feel bad about it. When it
yeah.
happens, I don't feel bad at all. I'll get out and I will become very in the face and straighten somebody out. And then I leave there feeling just fine. I'm
Well,
like, I don't have a problem with.
that's a contradiction, right? And that's why, like, if anybody follows me for any length of time on social media, you get the whole of me. I mean, this morning I filmed my boyfriend's butt while he's working at the gym because we are a contradiction. I can be complete love, and what that means is I can show up and be outrageous and love myself, or I can pop off if and don't get me wrong, the difference between me popping off now and me like being feisty when I was young is I understand that there's always an energetic exchange coming. So I get to take ownership of the experience I have. And you said it beautifully, and I think the audience needs to hear this. You recognize somebody cuts you off while you're coming out of O'Hare. You get a negative charge and you're like, now you're like, oh crap, if I don't find a way to transmute this negative charge to neutralize it, 13 other people are going to cut me off because I'm showing up as this energy. And community, understand this, as you're higher in vibration, you track stuff way faster. Like, I mean, it's instantaneous. So because she lives in love, she's like sending out high vibe energy. That energy she sends out negative, that's going to be like, and you're like, oh damn, I didn't
Great.
calm down.
Yeah. So when
Right?
I drive, yeah, I drive, I'm always in a very chill place.
Yeah.
It's like immediately when I touch the steering wheel, and I've sort of programmed myself that the steering wheel, when I get in the car, I just run my hands across it and I tell it I love it and then thank you and have my angels and my protection and just this beautiful space. And people get in the car and they're like, they don't like to fly, they got to go for work. And I'll just sit and send them Reiki while I'm driving. And then by the time they get there, like their headache's gone, they're chilled out, and they're ready to get on the flight.
You just brought up something that I think is so important to touch upon, and I'm curious, like programming. Our mind is it's like a supercomputer, and you get to program it with whatever you want. Now, psychotropics, right? What you're saying is it gives you the ability to start to observe the mental narrative, right? Because most people are stuck unconscious. And
Absolutely.
for anybody who's like, what's that mean? You don't even know you think negatively. You don't even realize you're conditioned. You don't even know that your beliefs have never been yours, aren't yours, and you most likely not even examine them. But, but once you know that, what you just said is beautiful, is you ran programs of love in your mind, whether it's in your car in the same way. I always get in the car. Thank you so much for a beautiful, peaceful ride filled with abundant visuals and joy. And that's what I get because we've trained ourselves. So, do you work with people on um programming or
A lot of my clients I work with on mostly focus on language, on how we speak, how to
yes.
retrack our language. Language is your most po- um, powerful thing. You
Yeah.
can be you can be the change of one other person's life too in a small conversation. People don't realize how powerful our spells are, you know. And when you look at somebody, it's like most people write a birthday card and they write, "I hope you have a happy birthday." The word hope is not as pretty and nice as people think of it as because it's a distance, it's far away from us. It's in this farther realm where miracles. So by hoping somebody has a happy birthday, you're putting that out there far away from them. Instead of, I know you're going to have a spectacular birthday, or I'm
Yes.
wishing you the best birthday ever. And so it's simple things like that, changing those words that we use and know
Yeah.
that it's
I'm
powerful.
ruthless with my clients. They'll tell you. They'll be 2 seconds into conversation. I'm like, ah, because if you're unconscious, you don't know. So it's
Right?
my job to make you aware of it. One,
Right.
but something you said. I can't tell you how many people I know who have medical conditions. And they have no problem telling me this, and
Yeah.
I have had people come to me and say, "You won't even acknowledge," blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and you know what? As a result, I'm doing you a great service. You are damn sure right. I'm not acknowledging that. In fact, to use Yanko's words, I see you as whole, healed, and complete. And the minute I stop seeing you as that, I just bought into your belief, not mine. And I'm
Yeah.
not sending you energy that can serve you to raise your frequency.
That's a beautiful way to put it. I like that.
That's Yanko. I steal it all the time. I'm like, whole, healed, and complete.
No,
That's
still as much as you want.
I do.
I probably get it from someplace else. We're all sharing the same reality, so it's
Yeah.
okay.
I have to say that when I met Yanko, I was blown away in like 10 minutes. Like I was like, "Oh my god, I have to get to know this human being." He has been a world of information, and the way that he puts things is, it's like, oh, so I get what you're saying. I could steal half of what he says and share it with somebody else because it's just the way he speaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so funny because Elena, I give Yanko and other people sometimes push back on how they speak, only because of of some of the people in my community. This A lot of what we're saying is so obscure, so like beyond like what they've even considered to consider, let alone. And so I'm really big about trying to rein it in to make it so it's palatable. So it's not so much that it's like these three are batshit cuckoo, but okay, that feels really hard to take a bite of, but I'm not gonna dismiss it 100% because if you keep tuning in, your soul is calling you to tune in. I think about Eckhart Tolle's books. I hated them. I could not stand those books, but I kept reading them until finally one day I was like, oh, I get it. And I attribute that to my soul knowing before my head picked up on what it was.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a deeper knowing within that knows. And sometimes that thing is the one thing that stops you and says, or maybe you say, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting process. Remember the first time you realized that you chose everything that's happening? And I was like, first person to tell me that, and this was years ago. And I was like, you're crazy. Like, not even I'm nuts enough to pick my first 30 years. Like, I'm not even that crazy. And I look at my first 30 years of life, and who I am now wouldn't be if I didn't experience all of what I did that first 30 years. So I think I really choreographed it pretty well, considering.
Well, that's the thing is, again, working with people who are still like seeped in the emotion of domestic violence, being, beaten or whatever. I tread a very fine line because I, like you, completely get it. And yet, if you had told me coming out of rape that it was I created it, I would have probably been in jail for murder because I would have felt so attacked and so
Right, absolutely.
angry at the idea that I'm responsible for creating my reality, which I am, right? But time and place, I think, to your point, we plant seeds and they just kind of cultivate and germinate until they sprout, and then when they sprout, everything makes sense, which is again why I don't judge anything. I don't judge wars, I don't judge politicians, I judge nothing because I do not know what that the result will be. You know what I mean? I just don't know. So
Well, I think we're all sharing a reality, so we're all contributing to the greater whole.
Yep.
yeah.
So, like, just because you're not manifesting that doesn't mean somebody else doesn't. So, like, you're sitting in peace and everything, but then in the same time, there's people that are not sitting in peace, and so we're in the same reality, and we share it. So that's how it is to me.
But that's a contradiction, right? Yin and yang, the there's not just light energy, and
Right.
I think it's so funny because I can't tell you how many people, right? The David Hawkins scale of consciousness. And I laugh because I see this all the time because it's becoming more prolific. A lot of people don't even know how it was created. And then they're like, oh, I need to stay in love today. And I'm like, well, are you angry? No, because I can't lower my vibration. I'm like, but wait a minute. Are you bypassing your anger? Because if you're doing that, you're not in love. You're in illusion because you need to feel your feeling to get
Yeah.
to love.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have both sides of the coin. Like, you can't
Yes,
have the one without the other. Like, you
correct.
have to have dark to have light, and
Yep.
and that's the other thing. That's why, like, if you're on the middle, then you're experiencing both, but you're not having a huge of a swing. You're not going high too much and like, oh, and then you're not like all the way down in the crap and like, ah, experiencing the other thing, but you're just like right in the middle. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
And
nice to
it's
ride, but yeah, the real things are going to happen. Life, we live it within a world, and we are third dimensional. Even though we want to stay fourth and fifth dimensional, for about a year and a half, I really never grounded.
Yeah.
I didn't want to ground. I would say, no, I don't want to be there because I can feel too much. I like being here. I'm very happy here.
Yeah.
And then I realized with all the downloads that we're receiving and everything that if we don't transmute, if we don't ground, we can't balance.
Yep.
And so now I ground all the time. I'm constantly got my feet bare and in the ground because I need to be where I'm at.
Yeah.
And he's, sorry, we've got somebody who just showed up.
Quite
But
all
yeah,
right.
it's really important to ground and to be able to be in the human and the experience.
Yeah.
And we're doing what we can to just experience life the way it is, but trying to be in a loving, center heart space. And they say it only takes 30 of us. I mean, 30%.
Oh
If
yeah.
we all
To
bond
total
together,
consciousness. Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it, right? If we know, right, and this is where quantum physics and science comes into play, guys. So for anybody who says there's no God, and I believe God is love. So I don't even equate to the traditional God. But anybody who says that doesn't exist, all you need to do is look at data, like quantifiable data that says we live in a conscious universe. Because when you take an atom at its most finite particle, it's unseen, it's not visible by any type of thing. So that's it, you know what I mean? But to your point, Elena, when I was on this journey, there was a long time where I was like, oh my God, I just want to be peace, love, and but that takes away the human experience, and that's what we signed up for in this experience. We signed up to be human, which means to have all of the feelings and that's not doesn't mean you have to be reactive to them, but it is to bear witness to them and honor them as they come up, because they
right?
can teach you stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and they come up because they're teaching you something.
Yes.
It wouldn't happen if you didn't need it. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah.
So Elena, what is some wisdom or thoughts or insights or anything that you would like to teach your community today before we part ways?
Oh man.
Nothing like pressure, dang.
No, I know. Like, just love yourself, you know, and see others with love. Experience their energy, um, and look at their soul because everything is much better in that vibration. Food tastes better in that vibration. So,
Yeah. And I'll I'll add, forgive yourself. I found that when I was able to forgive myself of all my perceived sins, right? Because there's so much dogma about sin. Guys, sin, the original word is Greek and it's separation, and it really means separation from love. That's it. That's sin. And so when you can really choose to forgive yourself, then you can't hold a grudge against anybody else because you see yourself as that contradiction, as both loving and sometimes not, and as, you know, peaceful and sometimes in angst. And that to me is giving yourself permission to forgive yourself, because when you forgive yourself, you love yourself.
absolutely. I think they go together.
Yeah. Yanko, any final thoughts?
I'd like to thank our audience and viewers for sticking around and watching us. Please share, subscribe, send us a comment, positive or negative. We would like to hear back from you, and that'll help us take our show to the next level or help, facilitate it more towards you or what you're interested in. And that's pretty much it.
No, and I want to thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. It was really fun. It was fun.
Oh my God, you are just a treasure. And I do see your soul. And I truly am honored and privileged to be sharing space with you.
Well, I can't wait to just talk.
Oh, yeah. We'll have to plan time. So awesome.
I think
All
I'm
right.
past being gutted, so I'm good.
Yeah, I love it. All right, guys, until next week, this has been the 34th woo, woo, edition of For No Particular Reason. And to Yanko's point, all feedback is welcome because we want to see, feel, hear, and love you. So until next time.